Hey, greetings students. This is Robert Sean Kennedy. I will be your history instructor for Summer 3, 2018. And do note this is a Summer 3 course, not a Summer 1 course. So this course doesn't end in July, it ends in August. Take note right there. The last day of class is August 9th. Let's see what else to begin with. Okay, basically the purpose of this is to make sure you are fully oriented and understand the expectations of the course. So with that said, use the questions that were provided to you in the orientation folder or sent to you in email. Just to take notes on those questions, because those questions will be the exact questions that will be asked on the orientation exams. So without further ado, let's get into the course. So it's week 1. This is where the course opens up. You just want to begin with week 1. You'll notice there's a Start Here folder. You want to, I'm sure you've already done that already, but if you haven't, you'll click here. And you'll get a few things itemized here, a syllabus. If this happens to be closed, there might be a little arrow right here to open it on up. So make sure this is open for you. Open up the syllabus, print that out, make sure you have it handy. That's where the schedule is kept. You want to download the lockdown browser. So let's go there real quick. If you're not familiar with what the lockdown browser is, it's during the exam. You will open up Blackboard through the lockdown browser. So when you download the software, I'll just click it here so you can see. You're going to install here, and what should happen is an icon that looks like this padlock should install onto your desktop. If it doesn't, look into your files and look for something in your files that says Respond to Lockdown Browser. If you have any problems at all, write this phone number down, please. 872-2598. 872-2598. That is the distance learning hotline. If you have any technical problems whatsoever, don't contact me. You can. I might be able to help you, but more often than not, no. Distance learning will be able to help you with that. So most students don't have any problems downloading this, but if you do, you'll have to do that. So to take any exam, you have to have Lockdown Browser, and you have to have a webcam, a functional webcam when you're taking an exam. Download and sign up for Remind. So you're going to click here. And what is Remind? Remind is a closed private social media application. And so you can download this onto your phone and or use this on your desktop. This is how we'll communicate with each other. I'm going to be out of town for most of the summer, and when I am in town during the summer, I'm rarely in my office. So calling me will not be very fruitful. I mean, you can leave a voicemail, but the problem with that, even when I'm in town, is that students leave voicemails, and then we play phone tag for a couple of days. And it has to do probably with a question that could be responded to within a few seconds, and you're off and running, right? So I don't want you to be out there in the woods not knowing what to do. So get me on Remind. If we do need to talk on the phone, no problem. I absolutely always enjoy talking to students on the phone, but that's just not a good way to initiate a conversation or communication. So if we'd like to talk on the phone, we can do that. Let's just initiate it through Remind. So make sure you download that as quickly as possible. Here's where the videos are located. You're watching that already, and this is where you'll take the exam. You must take the exam and earn 100% on it if you want to stay enrolled in this course by June 7th. You can take the exam as many times as you need to in order to pass it. And it's not that hard. You're taking notes as you're listening, and you'll take the exam. And again, I'm not being, it might sound like I'm being a hard ass about this, but the purpose of this is to make sure you understand the expectations of the course. Because if you don't understand them in an internet class, you're not in a position where you can raise your hand and ask for clarification or a question, or see somebody else in a class raise their hand or ask for clarification. So it's important you understand the expectations now. So once you're done with that, then you're going to begin by going to the first lecture. So basically this whole course is divided up in weeks, and each week, for most weeks, there are lectures. There's 11 lectures throughout the course, starting with Reconstruction and ending with Watergate. So let me just go through and how to prepare for a lecture essay. Basically, you're striving to create a 5 to 8 paragraph essay, and that essay is going to be prepared on your own time. So I would recommend getting a notebook so you can write down at least the outline or the structure for the essay. And so when it comes time to click begin on one of your exams, what the exams will do, and I'll go over this a little bit more detail in just a little bit, is that they will randomly select lecture essays that you have already covered wherever you are within the semester. And so there's 3 exams, and by the time we get to exam 3, that one will randomly select essays from throughout the semester. And so it proceeds prior to that with exam 1 and exam 2 in the same manner. So how do you prepare for this? You don't need to do any outside research. You don't have to worry about a thesis. You don't have to worry about a conclusion. The learning objectives are all of that for you. So notice that term there. Just understand that what it means by the learning objective are these links right here. Each learning objective comes with a prompt, right? Discuss the 2 constitutional theories that evolved around the question of Reconstruction. And if you noticed here, it gave you a little prompt, at least 1 paragraph, so you're striving to write at least 1 paragraph. And when you're done with that, oh, let me go back real quick. Okay, so what you're going to do is there's a video here to watch. Which is me on that video. And then there are notes. So you're going to read the notes, and basically the video and the notes are going to give you the information to respond in at least 1 paragraph to this prompt right here. Discuss the 2 constitutional theories that evolved around the question of Reconstruction. When you're done responding that in your notebook, what you're going to do is you're going to go on to learning objective 2. And same principle applies. There'll be a prompt right there. And sometimes there's a video provided, sometimes not, but there'll always be text for you to respond to. Sometimes there'll be supplemental information, which will always be at the bottom of the page or in the margin of the page. And it works the same way throughout the for each learning objective. What happens is once you have a response to each of these learning objectives, that is your essay. And so during the exam, you'll get a response, a prompt that is basically a generalization, a little tighter generalization of all of these learning objectives that you'll respond to. So when you see something about Reconstruction, it's going to ask you in general terms what these learning objectives are basically asking you. You want to respond to all of those learning objectives to make sure that your essay is complete. So when that is asked of you during the exam, you will have that ready to go. All right, so going back to course content. So again, the course is divided up all by weeks. Most weeks have lecture essays in them, and if they don't, then they have an exam. So you'll notice during week 2, it's got 2 lecture essays. You want to respond to them same way as I just advised you with Reconstruction. You want to respond to each prompt within the learning objective. You want to note what the guideline is for how long it should be at least. I'll have those guidelines available here in just a little bit. They'll be ready for you when the course begins, that's for sure. Again, the combined response of all of the learning objectives is your response to the essay prompt. So make sure you are very specific with that information when it asks you how do you respond to the lecture essays. Don't just say, I read the material for the lectures and write an essay. Respond specifically so I know exactly how so I know that you know how to respond to that. Because that's basically how you're going to earn a grade in this course. You're going to respond to these lecture essays throughout the semester. Now, the other thing you want to make sure, this is another question in the orientation, is this right here. No late extensions will be granted for any reason. Okay, so make sure you understand that. Now, with that said, I understand life gets in the way sometimes and things don't go according to plan. Um, so how you can make this up isn't that you get a late extension or you get to do it again. It's that as you're going through, when you get to exam 2 in week 6, this is going to click this so you can see this. Notice one, there's 2 parts, and you notice how it says required respond as lockdown browser. Again, this one will say it too. You have to open up in lockdown browser, and you have to have it opened up through a webcam. So make sure you understand that. Now note this. Exam 2 will randomly select 5 lectures from weeks 1 through 5. So going back to course content so we can just see this real quick. Week 1 has the lecture essay reconstruction. Week 2 has the West place of process social Darwinism. Now you're going to be assessed on those because it's going to randomly select 2 of these 3 lecture essays in exam 1. Now when we get to exam 2, what's going to happen is 5 lecture essays from weeks 1, 2, 4, and 5 will be randomly selected. So for sure there'll be essays randomly selected from weeks 5. There'll be essays randomly selected from week 4. And there'll also be essays randomly selected from 2 and 1. So you might have to respond to an essay that you've already responded to. That's fine. Just the redundancy and the repetition is going to make sure you really understand this material. So make sure, don't throw your notes away once you're done. And you'll respond to these as well. So why this is actually a good benefit for you is the course is relatively self-paced. If I recommend sticking with the schedule so you don't ever get overwhelmed. But if life does get in the way, and let's say you did respond to reconstruction, you've got that essay ready, you responded to the West, but something came up during week 2 and you weren't able to get to social Darwinism. Week 3, there will be no lecture essays for you to prepare for. So that's an opportunity for you to go back and to prepare for social Darwinism if that was the case for you. The other thing is that you want to use week 3 is to review lecture essays that you've already done and see if there's anything else that you can just make your responses a little bit more thorough with a little bit more detail and examples from the lectures. Just so when you click begin on the exam, you're ready to go. All right. And so that's basically how that exam 1 will work. But when you get to exam 2, let's say you just weren't able to get to social Darwinism, or the progressive era, which is a pretty big lecture, was a little bit long and you weren't able to get to that. So when you get to exam 2, you can go back and go to the ones that you weren't able to respond to thoroughly and go back. Now the same thing works when we get down to the end of the semester. Exam 3 is going to have you respond to lecture essays from the entire semester, weeks 1 through 9, right? And again, if you missed exam 2, let's say you missed exam 2 and exam 1, I don't recommend doing that. That would be, you would be very anxious because exam 3 becomes do or die. But exam 3 will be there for you. So if you score higher on exam 3, and if you didn't do exam 2 or exam 1, then you automatically will score higher. That score will replace the score for exam 2, and that score will replace the score for exam 1 if they are lower. So it also works that if you didn't do as well as you wanted to, let's say on exam 1 you got a 60%, on exam 2 you got a 75%, but exam 3, you know, you've had enough time, you've gone through all of the lecture essays, they're thoroughly responded to in the way it's indicated in the guidelines, and you get to exam 3 and bam, you got a 95% on exam 3. Now what would happen is exam 2 would become a 90% and exam 1 would become a 90%. So you pretty much have an A in the course. So just keep that in mind as you're taking the exams. That's basically the course. do keep up with the schedule. It's not, you don't want to procrastinate in an internet course. It's a very manageable course if you stick with the schedule. If you wait and wait and wait and just say, oh wow, I'll just make sure I do everything in week 9 and just bang out exam 3, you won't be able to do that. It's way too much information for you to prepare these lecture essays. So my recommendation is stick with the schedule. If you have questions, reach out to me and remind. I will respond to you quickly. And if I don't respond to you within a day, definitely 48 hours, don't hesitate to send me another message saying, hey, I sent you a message and you didn't get back to me. I won't find it rude or pushy. My intent is never to ignore you. So yeah, if I don't get back to you within a day or two, for sure, message me back. Excellent. Well, do reach out to me if you have any questions about the orientation exam. Otherwise, plan to make sure you take it by June 7th. And if you are receiving this before the course takes, just make sure you have the questions ready to go. So on the first day of class, you just take the orientation exam and you're ready to go for the rest of the semester, beginning with the first lecture. Anyway, take care, and I'll be there for you whenever you reach out for me. So best of luck to you, and you don't need it if you just stick with the schedule and respond to each learning objective for each lecture essay, because you will be making your own luck. Take care.